I would like to issue a correction. Apparently, Dark Llama has previously worked in a metal foundry, which he has never mentioned. Now, of course, that's on me for assuming that anyone acquainted with industrial metallurgy would have been taught not to leap into an open furnace, but you can understand where I might have been confused. We now return to your regularly scheduled programming already in progress. Okay, and we are back to the lost city of Moer after quite some time away. That was sort of the last major thing I did, and as you can probably see, it's not finished. So we got some work to do. The smeltery also needs to be fixed. I've worked out what I think is a good solution to that, and there's like 5 or 10 buildings that are just squares in the ground. That one, that one. That one's not even a square. It's a whole production. But honestly, I think I'm gonna start with what might be kind of a big swing. We have been in the lost city of Moer for a while, and I have kind of been neglecting what I consider to be some fairly major aspects of the city. And I'm slightly worried that the longer I go without addressing this, the more used to it I'm going to get, and the less inclined I am going to be to want to change it. So I'm gonna take a big swing, and I'm gonna do something that, quite frankly, is going to change the whole vibe of the city pretty significantly for the better. This is infuriating. I have a shulker box for this. We're gonna take some big swings here and see what happens. And I was gonna say I might regret it, but if I regret it, I have bigger problems. So here goes nothing. If you've been paying attention, you likely recall that the conceit of the lost city of Moer is not that it's actually made of mud, but that it is made of deep slate or some other equivalent dark stone, because deep slate is a fictitious material. And it only looks like it's made of mud because it's covered in dust after thousands of years lost in the Tunisian desert, being buffeted by sandstorms and what have you. So we've kind of not really been doing that because it's a lot easier to just put in the shape of the building and then go back and detail it later. But I kind of got caught up in the putting in the building part and not so much in the doing the detailing later part that I never really got around to doing this. And the simple fact of the matter is that the vibe of the city with deep slate versus the vibe of the city with just mud is frankly drastically different. I don't know what it is, something about just the way that it alters the tone band, I guess. But it really, when it's just mud, it feels very warm. But when your eye is starting at the deep slate part and going up, the entire temperature of the city feels dramatically altered in a way that was always the intention. I did not design this in mind of being this much mud for this long. So I think already this feels a lot better, quite frankly. This feels how I intended it to feel. I think that, yeah, that's a little better. Also, of course, as we've discussed, we don't want the deep slate on the deep slate because I feel that that sort of muddies it. So the other really important part of this city is we want to take out all of this. I want to start putting in actual plant life, which, I mean, I've done that over here and such, but some parts of this are not as mossified as they need to be, quite frankly. And that is, again, I think, to the project's detriment. And I honestly think we can throw some of that in there. Oh dear. Now what? Christ, I just spent 20 minutes in a time warp. I have no idea what I was talking about. Grass? I don't know. Yeah, I think that's better. Now, there's a universe out there where I really put in a lot of thought and energy and effort into, you know, uh, wind direction and what parts of these buildings would or would not be covered in dust. Like, that this whole section right here is blocked from pretty much every side by buildings. In an actual dust storm, it's very unlikely that, for example, this corner would have anything on it. But again, this feels better than just this to me. So I'm just gonna do it everywhere. Uh, I don't necessarily care about wind shear and where rain would fall and remove more dust than elsewhere. It ain't that kind of movie. The only real place I ever have an issue with this is areas like here where the jungle wood comes all the way down to deep slate level, because there isn't really. I don't know what kind of wood is under all this dust. Maybe it is just jungle wood. Who can say? But I'm just gonna leave that as is, and if there's spots like here where I'm using signs for detailing, we're just gonna fudge that, I think. And because there's a plant growing right here, obviously we want this to be a excuse me, we want this to be a very plant heavy area here. So we're gonna really extend the moss a ways out from this, I think. So you, maybe want a U, and hell, let's throw some of this in there. There is not a mossy deep slate, but I feel like mossy cobblestone. Like I'm blending mossy cobblestone like over here. I'm blending mossy cobblestone in with mud. I think I can get away with blending mossy cobblestone in with deep slate. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of blowback on that one. Something else that goes really well with the moss is I've gone and I've made some green concrete powder that I'm just gonna maybe throw in a couple of spots here and there. Well, that won't fall through, will it? No. But I don't know if I really like it there. Of course, it is kind of. There's a couple of downsides to the green concrete powder. It's smooth, right, which can be good or bad depending on what you want to do with your concrete. But it also it has gravity, and B, you can't put plants on it, so you got to use it in kind of strategic places just for a little extra something. And of course, then there's this part right here that has basically not been developed at all. I don't know what this street does where, so I don't know. I'll do that. What's the worst that could happen? And I think it is also fine to just have some parts of this that are deep slate on deep slate. I don't think I want to go too, like maybe even here I don't even want to do anything. Okay, well there we go. That has already dramatically changed the vibe of this whole building. Yeah, see this staircase, that's the thing. Right now this staircase feels lopsided though because it doesn't blend in as much. But it feels a lot more run down than it used to with just a couple of quick changes. Because again, when the whole building is mud, it's like, yeah, that's just a normal building made out of mud. But when you really underscore, oh no, this building is just covered in mud, dramatic difference. Obviously, this whole portion is still in need of detailing, but that's a plant problem, not a deep slate problem. So that is a different shulker box's worth of content. Now, of course, the hard part is I've done that one, and that took me like half an hour, not including time warps, and I have, like 40 more to go. So I guess I have to like bust out the pressure washer or something and just go to town on these things. And I don't know where I'm going to hook up a pressure washer in a, 2nd century BC ancient Carthaginian city. So this might take a while. Well, I guess that's what I get for pressure washing 8.5 acres of dirt in a white uniform. But we're done, with the exception of a couple of those, unfinished squares and some minor paths that haven't either been completely excavated or that don't currently go anywhere. Like, for example, here is not done, and this I don't think is in its final state. Everything in the city is at least some portion deep slate. I still got to redo this building, but I think this looks pretty good. It definitely changes the vibe of the city, and I think it does so in a good way. There were a couple of spots like where this is here, where it was sort of awkward to include deep slate when there's not, like, for example, like here where we have signs sort of meant to accent the mud. There's not a good dark gray to black sign that I can put there, so it can be awkward to mix it in places like that. But I think by and large, I'm okay with it. It's wood. It's fine. I'm not too worried. So we have other stuff that we need to do now that that's done. Like, for example, I need to fix the smeltery. I have a solution for the overly long loading times. I just need to rip the whole thing out and start over. Well, not this part, but this part I need to rip out and start over, which is probably for the best, all things considered. And I feel like I can just put it here, so it's not going to get in the way of anything I've already made, but it is going to be annoying to set up. Okay, I have kind of made a mess of the smeltery, but I think I have the bulk of the redstone in, and more specifically the bulk of the boring redstone in. This is all just 5 item filters. I don't have to explain how those work, but I do want to explain the solution. So the problem with the original input was that it had to go over like 7 different hopper filters and then split off and then send some into there and some into there, and that took a while. This one, however, solves that problem by filtering out all of the bloomery mandated items, I don't know, first, and then splits off the rest of them into a single filter, and those go into the furnace. So how it accomplishes that is actually fairly straightforward. All you got to do is just put down a chest boat in the middle of all of that, and I believe that is on, yep, that is on all 6 of these. And so now if we take 5 dummy items, please work. Okay, so items have gone into here, here. I mean, you can see the lights that have gone on the comparators because I didn't have anything in there, and nothing has gone in here, which means that basically if there are items that need to go in a specific filter, they're always going to prioritize going into these specific filters first, and are going to try their damnedest. There is a fruit fly that has been in my office for like an hour. They are going to try their damnedest not to go in here, which should hopefully mean, as long as items are being, these are the wrong hoppers, as long as items are being placed into the chest boat up here at hopper speed, I can't reach that one. The items that need to go in the filters should ideally never go into here. Now, there are a couple of caveats with this that I noticed while I was building this, which I noticed an hour ago when I tried to do this the first time. Where is that last piece of ice? There it is. So, determining the actual order of the filters is very difficult. Now, god damn it, did I get it? I have no idea. I did not get the fruit fly. There isn't even any fruit in here. Okay, so determining the order that the hoppers actually collect items is very difficult. I was very lucky that I was able to find a configuration where this hopper, which needs to go into here, is right here. But there are some problems. So when you're building it, it will actually prioritize the hopper that you placed last. However, When the chunk unloads, possibly, or when you reload the world, which is very difficult to test when you're on a multiplayer server. I had to wait for the hourly server restart. I mean, I could have done it myself, but when the world reloads, it will choose a new one based on some other algorithm of which I'm unaware, and that proved to be here. A couple of times, depending on where this is placed, it was this hopper, which was not really going to work with this configuration. And I haven't yet run enough tests to determine if it's random or not, but it seems to be consistent so far. It is a 1 in 6 chance, so it is possible that I just roll a 6 twice in a row. But hopefully that works. So basically, once you've built the mechanism, you need to relog before you can actually see what hopper the non-filtered item needs to go into. And of course, if you're, using this for any other purpose, like just filtering 6 items into 6 different directions, you're probably fine. So we're just going to put, that's probably not, yeah. We're just going to put 18 dummy items in here. These filters do work better if you have, 18 of the item you're filtering, and then, or like 40 or something. There's some way to make this filter that is like more overflow proof than usual, but with the way that this is designed, I don't think that's much of a concern here. And also because this is filtering smeltables, I'm not going to go get 18 to 40 ancient debris and leave it sitting in a hopper filter. So we're just going to put those in there, and then we're going to get the 5 items that we need to smelt in a bloomery. I previously had raw copper and raw copper blocks in there, but those don't need to be smelted in a bloomery. I only had them in there because it was faster, so we're leaving those out because this only does 6. There is a way to get this to do 8, but it's quite a bit larger. You can squeeze the chest boat right into the dead center, but I'm not going to do that. So we're going to do iron and, hello, ancient debris. There we go. So hopefully that should work, and now we just need to send that into there. So anything that doesn't get picked up by the filters will go straight into there, and this chest is just there to speed it up a little bit because it'll basically, skip over the space that it would have taken 2 hoppers. And then we just got to do one of these and one of these, and I believe that should now be, well, I mean, it's actually not working because I have to put that in there, and I have to put that there. And now it's connected to the system. The only other thing that is going to be a slight concern is that I don't have a mechanism to hold off on distributing this until it's got at least 16 items in it. So I might have to still stick a small timer on it, but that's a problem for later, hopefully. So do I have anything to smelt is the question. I guess I have these. Okay, so I have all of these, everything but ancient debris that needs to be filtered, and then just a stack of raw chicken. And, oh, this is another weird thing I found out about. If you have a chest boat that is sitting on a stair like this, you can pipe a hopper into it through the stair, and it just looks like it's piping into the wall. So we're just going to put that there, because this does need to go in at hopper speed. Otherwise, the filter will not be able to keep up, and items will go into here, and it's a whole mess. So we just got to do that and pray. Yep, okay. Did that actually go in fast enough? Hang on. I might not need a timer. That was... Wait a second. Wow, okay. So don't need a timer on that, apparently. Mechanism just works, which is sick. So I'm calling that a win. Yep, there we go. Okay, that I really hope was everything I put in there. I should maybe test it with more than one of everything, but I don't really have that. So I'm going to call that a success. Good job, me. Fix the smeltery. That was my biggest lingering problem. Here we go. I'm going to put in the non-blocks first, because the blocks are going to take a lot longer to smelt. Here we go. It's only using 4 bloomeries. This is what I wanted to check. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I know why. I see the problem. Why? What is locking you, friendo? Aha! Well, that doesn't need to be there. There was a piece of redstone that was pointing into a block that had a hopper on top of it, which was locking the hopper.
Ah.
Which was preventing all of the items from filtering into the system correctly. See, this is the kind of thing that I would not have noticed in my initial stress test that only used 4 items. But nothing seems to have broken yet, which is...
That's good.
Exciting.
Just a small hiccup, but that's it.
Yeah, and that was not even a problem with the new filter. That was just a problem with the redstone that has apparently always been there. Okay, I feel a lot better about this compared to what I had previously. It's actually roughly as tall as the surrounding buildings, and B, just this part on the back never quite worked for me, and I think compressing it down to that scale is a lot better. I haven't completely finished redoing this, and this area back here is sort of still a little rough, but how do I get out from here? Do I really have to go all the way around? I'm doing this. But the outside is a lot better, I think. And it's fine from this angle. I'm definitely still going to work on this side. It needs plants. All the city needs plants now that it's deep slate. But from this side, this view is a lot better compared to where it would just end around there and all you could see is skyline. So I feel a lot better about that. And I have finally, if there's a good angle to view this from, there kind of isn't, because the city's still heavily a work in progress and very flat. We're just going to do this. I have finally added the chimneys that I have been wanting on this thing since I built the first floor and just never got around to. And I think they're fine. I looked at pictures of actual chimneys that would probably have been used in a building like this in the era and culture that it's from, and they were all the sort of chimney where the smoke came out the sides and not the top. But smoke in this game don't work like that, so I didn't really have an option there. And then I tried to do some sort of other smaller smokestack structure here, which I think looks good, but suffers from the same problem that you can't see the pots from a distance. But I think, again, we have enough line of sight blockers that it's probably fine. Like if you're, here, you can't see them disappear. So I'm fairly content with that. But there is still one thing we gotta do, and that is, I always start these sentences with the expectation that I'll get where I'm going by the time I get there. I think that's from a gravestone, but I don't know who died back here. Probably Sun, because this is a rat hole. Anyway, and now I'm here. So, for a while, we have had this piston that turns on when the smeltery is active. When this furnace changes states, this observer pulses, toggles this bulb on, which pushes the piston up, and that doesn't do anything because that's not hooked up to anything. Same thing over here on the bloomery. And as I've discussed, this furnace is always going to be active when the smeltery is, because this is the first one that gets stuff piped into it. There are scenarios where if, like, I put a copper block in here, this furnace could stay on longer, but who cares? But This doesn't do anything. This just pushes up, and it was initially my intention that this would push up and do something somewhere, but the redstone has kind of changed since then. I mean, like, not a lot, but this has gone in, for example, and this doesn't do anything. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick hot swap on here. We're going to replace those with that, and then we're going to send that into there, and just run a quick cord into here. Oh, run a quick cord into here. I know what I'm doing. And this is inaccessible from where I'm currently standing. This new line goes up this weird vertical slab column, extends again, and goes all the way up past the filter here to an area that I can't reach. And we're just going to free cam. This is right under the chimney. This is, of course, a sticky piston holding a hay bale, which means that when this line goes on, the piston is going to move up, the hay bale is going to go under the campfire, and it's going to extend the range of the smoke so that it actually comes out the top of the smokestacks, which is really the only good way to toggle a smokestack on and off. There are other ways. You can use trapdoors, but then you have to be able to get redstone up to the sides, or you can hit it with a flint and steel and a water bucket, but that's for psychopaths. So I've just done that. And with that hooked up, I believe that if I leave here again, see, once again, I've started a sentence with the expectation that I would get where I was going by the end of it, and I am still in the middle of a maintenance tunnel. Even though there's a door in the smeltery that gets me back out into the smeltery, I also don't need to go to the smeltery because I have to go somewhere else. I don't have a whole lot to smelt, so we're just doing some raw chicken, which was explicitly the reason why I made that farm. So, the moment that starts loading, very quickly, we should see smoke starts coming out the smokestacks. And let's go up to the roof and watch it from there, because I now have a way onto the roof, too, which does nothing because there's nothing on the roof. But let's see here. So we hop up here, hop up here, hop up here. This could be more annoying. I think I'd like to make this more annoying, but one thing at a time. And then on to here, up, and just for fun, go down here, and then out here, and you're on the roof. And there it goes! And that just adds a little more life to my dead city, intentionally dead city. But, what can you do? I'm living here now. It's alive. It's not dead no more. So, in conclusion, look at that! It's cool. That's all I got. We can move on to something else now, because the smeltery is refurbished. And it's done. I cut in the middle of that, so you have no appreciation for how fast that was, but that was quick. Anyway, so I have a new project in mind, and if I could actually get over here, I could start on it, but I have to go. Where do I have to go? I'm lost in my own damn city. I made it. Okay, so one of my next projects that I'd like to actually get to soonish is I would like to start on my fireworks factory, because I've had an idea for it for a while. This is not where it's going to be. It's going to be over here. I'm once again lost in my own city. Here somewhere by the gunpowder and the paper. I've had ideas for it for a while, and there's stuff coming up in the upcoming update that hopefully by the time this releases won't actually have been that long ago, as opposed to a couple episodes ago, which happened several months ago. Anyway, there's stuff coming in the next update that I think will greatly facilitate my fireworks factory. The shelves are going to play a big part in it. And there's sort of just one problem. I don't have a renewable source of most dyes. Like, the sniffers will get me cyan and orange, and I can get yellow, red, pink, and magenta from bone mealing these flowers. But anything else, like blue or white, I guess white comes from bone meal, but beside the point, I don't have a renewable source of most of these things. And I need a flower farm. Dewey was working on a flower farm, but Dewey has never finished anything, ever. So we're going to have to do that ourselves. Now, there is a small patch of flower forest over here by the old city, which I'm sure will one day be something, but it is very small indeed. Or, up here, just a brief 280 meters above Moer, It's all flower forest. I have been clearing out a large section of the verdant woods here, and I'm going to I'm going to tear down this historic forest and turn it into one of my, not really a parking lot, flower farm. I have a space roughly marked out for where I want the flower farm, except it's wrong. I've done some testing in creative and worked out that the best place to put these markers is actually here and here, which gives us a 3x3 chunk area from here down to here, which you can't really see because there are still leaves in the way, but I'll get rid of those eventually. And what that means, you can't really see it right now, and I'm lost, nearly enough bone meal to demonstrate, but there are, or at least there should be, alliums here. All of the tulips roughly in this area, I think. Yeah, there's some red ones over here somewhere. And over here are, again, sort of outside of the radius, but if you bone meal here, there are lily of the valley and cornflowers, as well as dandelions and poppies, I think, yeah, around there-ish. And this basically means that the only flowers we're not getting out of this are either the tall ones that we can bone meal ourselves, or the really small ones that we can bone meal ourselves that I don't have around here to point at, and blue orchids. And I guess eye blossoms, but I already have a huge backlog of eye blossoms, so I'm not too worried about that. Problem with that is that it does mean we have to flatten this very large area out, and I need to hook up enough redstone to bone meal a 48 by 48 area around us. And frankly, just based on the scale of the project, I think I'm going to put an independent bone meal farm up here, just to power it on its own. And so it's a 3x3 area, which is enough to be loaded by a range anchor. But I don't want to be spending fuel constantly to keep this area loaded, and B, it doesn't really need to be loaded all that much. So I think I'm probably just going to pop an ender pearl in the middle of it somewhere and just let that load it whenever I'm online. Now, of course, you're probably thinking to yourself, but Kirven, aren't you going to have to come up here semi-periodically and harvest all those flowers? You're probably not thinking that because it's pretty obvious what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take them and drop them down here, and you know what? Some of these too. And if I'm correct, which I'm probably not because I miscounted earlier and was way off, they land right there. Right there. Yeah, I just checked the code, and I had small flowers on the list of items to automatically clean up if they've been in the world for, like a minute or something to reduce lag, because, they will frequently just get, like, knocked off by water streams and stuff, and so I'm going to go take that out. Okay, I think it's done. I say it's done. I made one small change. As I was mapping this out, it sort of occurred to me that these 3 chunks here did not contain any unique flowers that these chunks here didn't already have. So I got rid of that. That would have been, building a whole extra third of this. It would have used a lot more resources, would have taken a lot more time to fill up with bone meal. I didn't want to do it, so I got rid of it. This works fine. And other than the fact that I have no way to reliably add bone meal to it, other than just going around and placing it manually like a sucker, it's pretty much done. And I have a couple of mechanisms in mind for getting the bone meal in there, but it's going to take a lot of hoppers that I don't necessarily want to do, and frankly, I'm considering just waiting for copper golems to be added and use them as an item distribution system and just see how that works. Also, I still need to build the actual bone meal farm, which, now that these chunks are being not used for anything, might end up being where I put those. Or each one of these gets its own bone meal factory is also equally possible. Whatever, let's just see it work. And there go. So, Lily of the Valley, Oxeye Daisy, Cornflower, whatever the hell I just picked up there, white tulips, pink tulips, roses, poppies, whatever you want to call them, Oxeye Daisies, dandelions, all the rest of the tulips somewhere, pink tulips. There's the orange tulips, more dandelions. You get a lot of dandelions here because that's all that really grows in this biome, but, you know, whatever. And alliums, and azure blue, it's over in the corner. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the flowers that you can get out of a flower forest, and I have yet to find a good place to get blue orchids. I know there are biomes in the Halo that spawn them, but I do not think there are any nearby. I'll have to double check. But I think overall this will suit my purposes nicely. And now I just need a harvesting mechanism and a reloading mechanism and a bone meal farm. And then I never have to come up here again, which is exciting. In the meantime, though, I'm going to take a break. I don't know if you can tell, my allergies are killing me. I'm all stuffed up. I'm exhausted. My stomach hurts. I may have eaten some bad salmon. And I got to get this fungus off my head. That's better. I need a new hat. Okay, I think it's done. I really hope it's done. I can't imagine what I'm forgetting. So let's go over it. The minecart's loading the bone meal. That's fairly obvious. This we've already talked about. New things I have added. Obviously the bone meal farms. We've seen this before. This is a minor variation of the one I use in Moer. I have designed it in such a way that it has fewer pistons, so it may not be as efficient, but it also, I believe, solves the cobblestone issue, which was happening, I believe, when the lava managed to get into the gap left by the piston that didn't have water necessarily flow into it. I don't know if that's always the problem, but I think that should avoid that, hopefully. And it seems to be still keeping up just fine, so I'm not too concerned about that. I also installed fewer composters because I don't really think having all of them is necessary, and I really only put all the ones in at Moer so that I had the option to swap the distribution around as needed, but I don't think I need to do that here, and this distribution seems to work fine. There are a couple of more slightly esoteric circuits down here. This rail is on a series of very unusual gates. So first of all, this comparator is reading off of this barrel, which should start getting full once this dispenser is full, which is going to take a while. And if there are items in this barrel, then that effectively, to me at least, says the farm does not need any more bone meal. You can turn the cart off, and it will toggle this line, which will turn off this torch, which will keep this rail unpowered. And I think, lastly, there is also, you may notice, a torch running off of this comparator going into a timer. This hopper clock will ideally be what triggers the farm to run. I haven't worked out the timings yet, and I just have the filler items in my inventory, because I don't know how long I want it to take. But, once again, if this does not have bone meal in it, then obviously the farm can't run, so it would be a waste of time to run the clock and harvest it when nothing is happening. So, if there is no bone meal in this barrel, this hopper clock does not move. Now, of course, this is going to be a problem as we take the time to fill up all 100-odd of these barrels. I don't remember what number I ultimately decided on. So, in the interim, I'm just going to remove that until we know that the farm works. Now, timing is going to be an issue. So I'm going to fiddle around with what I actually want, and there's also just, like, storage to keep into account. Like, I don't have anywhere to put the flowers that are going to come out of this farm, so this may prove to be an issue. But I'm going to start, just to make sure it works. No, I'm going to try 24. I'm going to try 40. I feel like I'm going to get something wrong here, because this technically fires. I don't even know if this fires, quite frankly, because this repeater might just never turn off. we're just going to throw something in here and try it. So this, putting it in here is going to fire it. There we go. And what happens when that switches? So I have to hope that this is enough time. I have to keep track of a lot of variables here. Okay, so that did fire. And carts are coming back. Okay. But I'm concerned that that's not enough time for the carts to empty out. So I'm going to just throw another stack in there. Some quick addendums before I continue. Since that last spiel, I have made a couple of changes to the redstone, I think for the better. I have a pulse lengthener hooked up to a detector rail that trips when the minecart comes in and pauses it at this station long enough to reload 23 bone meal. That's empty, so that's kind of a bad example. But this, of course, is not actually very useful because you need 24 bone meal to fill up all of this, but whatever. Furthermore, I have replaced all of the barrels, and this might come back to bite me, with crafters because they have far fewer slots, like as few as one inventory slot. And I have locked all but these 2 corner slots because this 2 bone meal here is not a recipe for anything, and like bare minimum there's a 1 in a million chance that there's going to be just 1 bone meal in this slot when this machine fires. That's again a bad example because things keep getting pulled out, and again at that point, worst case scenario, you get an extra white dye, which is the whole point of this farm. So this basically just means that this is going to take a lot less time to completely fill up, which is the whole point of this whole mechanism. Now, of course, I don't actually have enough crafters to have done that with all of this just yet, but I'm getting there. So, I think the last thing that I really want to do here is I want to make sure that this stays loaded. So, first of all, while we're building up a backlog, I'm just going to put down a range anchor and fill that thing up. And I don't know how long that's going to run because I've redone the math on how range anchors work, and even though it was a long time ago, I still never quite worked out what that maps out to. And the other one is I'm going to put down a static altar and throw an ender pearl into there, which will keep this whole 3x3 area loaded, unless I die, in which case the ender pearl will forget that it exists just long enough to unload the chunk and ruin it, because even though they've tried to fix that bug 3 times, it's still an issue. So that is now either A, going to run for the entire duration of however long that fuel is designed to last, or B is going to run anytime I'm online, which I think is good enough. I really don't need that many flowers to the best of my knowledge, and I don't my demand for flowers is sufficiently limited that I think it's gonna build up fairly quickly in between the 2 times a month that I need dye. So another quick addendum, ender pearls are actually quite poor as chunk loaders. You can see things are working now, but if I go into spectator mode and unload the chunks, items stop going in hoppers, some of them stop moving altogether, and this system eventually just sort of breaks. Unless we're talking about items in the chunk that the ender pearl is actually in. So I'm going to just have to put an ender pearl in each of these chunks now, or move all of these bone meal farms, but I'm going to go with the former because the latter would take a long time, and I really don't want to do that. And now all that remains is to have an actual system to catch and sort them and distribute them, which may take a while, but not my problem at the moment, because I finished the thing I wanted to do. Oh, it's going! It's going! Right as I stopped recording. Look at it go! Really hope that's not getting overwhelmed. It shouldn't be. I mean, if they're coming down one at a time and not in a big bundle, this actually should keep up really well. Look at this! Still some alliums in there, but those are ones I put in there. And it's done! That's really fun. I like that. Good job, me! Alright, I've actually got a decent mix of everything that the smeltery is supposed to filter, and we're just going to throw it all in there and see what the hell happens. I've taken notes of how much should be output, so hopefully this doesn't screw me. Wow, that is on already. Okay. Okay, so that filter worked and didn't break, and is doing great. All right, good stuff.